for you Gentiles to go to the back of the chat room and to only bother us with your questions after the chosen ones have asked theirs. So, where does it say in the Torah that we're God's chosen people? I'm pointing out to guest 28 that what makes us special is we're God's chosen people. And so, who said that? Where does it say that? Chosen for what? These are great questions. So, God says to Abraham, I will make of you a great nation, and in you will all the peoples of the world be blessed. So that's, throughout the Torah, it talks about God's special love for the children of Israel, and that they are His special chosen people. So chosen for what? Jews are like a pilot project for humanity, God's pilot project. Jews represent the core to a higher moral law. Jews show a better way. So the purpose of Jews, they are chosen to represent God in the world. So when you see a Jew, that should be like a reminder to you that there's a higher moral law.
But the chosenness is not necessary. It's not superiority. It's a greater burden. It's the burden of chosenness means you're supposed to be more responsible. I mean, you're supposed to understand these issues of ethical responsibility, and you're held to a higher authority, I think.
Yeah, I mean, where Jews are accountable to 613 basic laws in the Torah, non-Jews are accountable to 7. So we're chosen for more work, more responsibility, more demands. And the Goyim, if you simply abstain from murder, committing idolatry, publicly denying God's existence, abstain from homosexual sex, adulterous sex, incest, and bestiality, you set up courts of law, don't steal or kidnap, and you abstain from cruelty to animals, you have observed the 7 laws of the sons of Noah, you will have a place in the world to come where you can be with Jesus.
So it's not that other people are excluded.
Right. There's nothing in Judaism that...
You're chosen to be responsible for more.
Right.
So it's a burden.
And again in chapter 19, verse 21, your eye shall not pity. Life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. So, your eye shall not pity. Keeps repeating that. Show no mercy to murderers. You got to free the land from the blood guilt. But there's this whole idea that when innocent people die, that the land has blood guilt. So, in our land, you could accidentally run over someone and kill them, and the next day you could be getting a smoothie at Starbucks. You go on with your life. There's a player in the NFL who, killed someone with his car, and you accidentally kill someone in America today, you might get, a year in prison, and then you just go on with your life. Well, the Torah takes accidental killing, let alone homicidal killing with intent, much more seriously than we do. So you have to run to a city of refuge, and you have to stay there till the high priest dies. So you might be stuck there for 40 years if you unjustly kill someone. So there's this whole idea that it doesn't say, and if you have porno theaters, it will pollute the land. It says if you have unjust blood that is shed in your land, that's what pollutes the land. Unjust killing pollutes the land.
But that's interesting, because think about, why is that going to pollute the land? Because what's going to happen is the community is going to turn against that person, and it's going to create dissension in the community, and that's why that person has to leave. I mean, it's really, that's one of the most interesting parts of this Torah portion, this accidental murder.
Guest 22 wants to know, can you follow all the commandments, all the rules of Judaism without belief in them, and be considered a righteous Jew?
I think the answer is
yes. Yeah. I mean, if you even you keep 70% of them, you'll be a righteous Jew.
Yeah.
You can keep 50% of them, you will be more righteous than 99% of Jews out there. So, yeah, go.
However, if you're converting, if you're doing
an
Orthodox conversion,
they're going to ask you,
that you don't believe. Do you believe that Moses wrote the Torah?
Yeah.
You better say yes.
You better say yes.
Better really believe it.
You better be very convincing. The science editor for Reason magazine in college was an atheist, but he wanted to convert to Judaism. But his atheism was a bit of a problem for his conservative rabbi, who told him that he couldn't convert him if he was an atheist. So the guy stuck with his atheism and never converted. So, he's lived his whole life without belonging to the people with whom he most identifies. So, God does want you to believe in him. God does want you to relate to him. But the primarily way you show you believe in him and relate to him is by the way you treat the rest of his creation. So in Christianity, belief in God is an either-or philosophical proposition. In Judaism, the relationship to God is much more intimate. Like God brought us out of Egypt, he gave us the Torah, we're his chosen people. God has acted in history, through our history. We are like the intersection of the divine and the human. So this familiarity tends to breed contempt among Jews. So you'll find Jews all the time saying, in far greater proportion than among non-Jews in the United States, that they don't believe in God. But this is just an expression of contempt much of the time for the intimacy of which you are stuck as a Jew in relationship to God. So just because a Jew says, I don't believe in God, doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't believe in God. Or he may even not believe in God, but the whole way that Jewish life is structured, it's what you do that is most significant, not what you believe. So there's an emphasis on action. So if you lead a righteous life without making public professions of belief in a deity, you've done well as a Jew. Is it all about the ends regardless of the means? God, we've got a classic Christian in here.
No, Judaism is about the process, not the product, not the end result. It's about what you're doing. It's never about the ends. This
Pasha is very process-oriented.
Yes, it's never about the ends. Christianity is about an end result.
Salvation.
Right, salvation. So you
to
can
the
go
next
to heaven.
world.
So you don't go to hell.
Yeah. Torah does not have a problem with judging. Like the whole beginning of this Pasha is about setting up judges, setting up leaders over you, setting up policemen. Okay, there's a clarifying question. If one does not believe in God, but regardless decides to follow all the commandments, they are just as righteous? No, they're not just as righteous, but they're still righteous. Then why would I claim that you should just follow the rules? I never claim you should just follow the rules. All I've claimed is that following the rules, being a righteous person in your behavior, is more important than your theological beliefs. So both belief and deed are important, but deed is more important than creed.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that complicated to me, but... And it's kind of also hierarchical. The more traditional you go in Judaism, the more hierarchical it gets. So in Reform and Conservative and Modern Orthodoxy, they're very comfortable with calling their rabbi by their first name. Like at B'nai David, it was Rav Yosef, Rav Ari. You go into traditional Judaism, they don't call their rabbis by their first name. In Reform, Conservative, Modern Orthodox, people feel very comfortable just going up to the rabbi and going on a whole spiel about what they thought of the rabbi's sermon or what they believe on this issue. Traditional Judaism is much more hierarchical. The people who study the most are on top, and the people who study the least know that they don't know much, and they don't go venting their opinions and beliefs as frequently as in non-Orthodox Judaism. So conservative Judaism is more hierarchical than Reform Judaism. Modern Orthodoxy is more hierarchical than Reform, but traditional Orthodoxy is more hierarchical than any of those other movements. And if you go to the Torah where it says, you shall appoint judges over you and you shall obey them, it's clearly setting up a very hierarchical structure, which is kind of ironic. Both you and I have some issues with hierarchy and authority, and yet we're both embracing Orthodox Judaism.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, what's up with that?
It's kind of unexplainable. I think we're just used to it in a different form. We don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
We need something to clash up against, I guess.
Do you think Moshe said, righteousness shall you pursue? He said righteousness twice because he was a stutterer?
No, I think that Torah is very lyrical. I mean, it's meant to be read aloud. It's meant to be spoken. So it's rhythmic, it's lyrical, it's poetic.
Now it says at the very beginning of the Pasha, you shall not plant for yourselves an idolatrous tree. I want you to know, folks, this is not an idolatrous tree.